Hi, Simon.
G'day. How are you?
How you going?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Appreciate you taking the time to chat with me about all of these fun things. Just to give you a quick intro, I've been kicking this off and interviewing several people now, just trying to get kind of a catalog or a historical reference, as well as, here's what's going on currently in the country. And so far, it's been really fun. So I talked to Glenn Evans not too long ago, and he was like, "You got to talk to Simon." And I've been following you on the amplification bit on Facebook for quite some time. So
That's nice of Glenn.
Yeah, it totally made sense to me. So that was you were already on the list, actually, to be honest. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I think that there's just a lot going on here that doesn't get some of the attention that it deserves elsewhere in the world, and there's a lot of talent running around this place. So it's been fun for me to learn about these things and start chatting with some folks. So yeah,
it's always the way in New Zealand. Lots of hidden talent, and no one ever finds out.
yeah, right. That's exactly what it seems, which is cool. I mean, it's kind of nice also to have our own little slice of paradise, as it were, within the country. So yeah.
You're not wrong there.
So I'm a huge fan of the Bogan Amplification Facebook page, and I wanted to let you know that like the descriptions and of the repairs and things you do there, for me personally, is huge, and that has to be a labor of love in order to actually do it in the way that you do it and to document those things to that degree.
Yeah.
And as a DIY hobbyist amp tech person, I just wanted to give you a huge thanks for that, because it really is meaningful.
Oh,
so yeah, I really appreciate that. So I've learned a ton.
Funny. When you do it, you kind of wonder, does anyone actually pay any attention to what you're doing? And I get the occasional person who goes, "I've had a look at your photo, and I've had a look at the words, and what you've said and what I can see in the photo are two different things." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I took that photo, and then I changed my mind about what I did there, and I didn't take another photo."
Yeah. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Those things are always going to happen, right? But I think one of the ones I was scrolling through last night, I saw that you had a recommendation for somebody who will wind transformers, and I was kind of taken aback by that, and of course my brain kicked into high gear, and I started thinking about everything I need a transformer for, and so that was something that was huge as well.
Well, let's make the most of Brian, because he's in his mid-80s.
Okay.
And I don't know many other people who can do things the way that Brian does it. He does transformers the old-fashioned way, and he's even got this big vat full of varnish that he dips the transformers into.
Wow.
So, they're genuine varnish potted transformers, just like the 1940s ones.
Yeah.
And
that's amazing.
He's a great guy to talk to. So he's got this garage at the back of his house that's just been completely transformed into a transformer winding place, and he's got huge amounts of old radio gear. He loves old vintage radios and things like that. So
nice.
Long may he keep going. He's still sprightly, but I send him emails every so often, and it takes 2 or 3 days, and I have to ring him up and go, "Brian, are you okay?"
Very nice. Yeah,
he's one of the people who sends you back a 1-word email reply.
Yeah, I have a couple ideas that I want to try and bring to fruition, and they will probably require either some old radio transformers or something similar. So I've got
about 3 or 4 of them in the shed as well.
Yeah, I wound up on Trade Me. I wound up eventually purchasing 20 boxes of old tubes. Somebody was estate sale kind of thing, and picked them all up, and it's so far been a little bit of a gold mine. So it's been
that's good.
Quite nice.
Yeah. Normally it's maybe 5 to 10% of them are useful for guitar amps, and the others are useful if you want to create something really freaky.
Yes. Yeah, and I've got that bug of creating something slightly different, but one of the things that came out of that was a full box of 300 new old stock CV4014s, which I forget what the equivalent of that is, but I noticed that Victory is actually using those in all of their pedal amps.
CV4014s. I mean, obviously it's a 12 a
Actually it's an EF91, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I've found an old schematic that actually has the EF91s they're using them. It's Pentode, and they're using it for preamp and for the power amp section of like a phono amplifier.
Yeah, EF91.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's an old 7-pin tube.
Yes. Yep. That's it. That's the one. So yeah. So I've got ideas about basically building a small preamp out of those. So not all of them at the same time, of course, but
yeah, you might be able to use it kind of similar to like an EF86 or something. It might work quite well as a pentode preamp.
Yep. Yeah. The fact that I know it's been used before in preamps for sound is a huge win already. So yeah,
and it's 6.3 volt filaments too, which is really helpful. So you don't have to
exactly no dividers or anything going on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So one of the things I like to do on the show too is just talk about specific New Zealand stuff. And so I know of Gun amps, Rocket, Jansen, Holden's. What other New Zealand creations are worth noting?
Ooh, Fountain, Elron. There's not too many others.
Okay, so that's
you've got most of them.
Okay, very cool. Are there any of those that you would consider like your favorites to work on?
Oh, the Jansens.
The Jansens? Yeah,
definitely the Jansens. Yeah, I got a real soft spot for the Jansens.
Nice.
I've got a number of them.
That's very, very cool. I have a 620 that needs a lot of help, and I'm looking forward to diving into that one and figuring out everything that's going on with it. So I think it's all original still. So it's, I mean, some of the caps are going to have to come out, but.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Look, they're really not hard to work on. They're a neat little amp. What would I compare them to? Kind of a little bit like a hot rodded Princeton.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely an amp worth restoring. So famous that I think it was the D4 made an album and called it 620.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty amazing. Yeah. Do you have a preference on which of those amps that you think sound the best to your taste?
I think you can't go past the old 50-watt Bassman.
Okay.
I mean, that's the one they made the most of, and they've been used on the majority of the recordings. Personally, my favorite is the 75-watt Bassman.
Okay.
But my goodness, yeah, try and put one of them on a stage nowadays and crank it to the point where you can get it into the sweet spot, and the sound engineer is not going to be your friend.
Right. They're going to have some words. So.
And I'm not a fan of attenuators. I don't think they sound like the amp. You know, half of the noise of the amp is from the noise of the amp.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense. I've got a 50-watt Bassman and a 75-watt Bassman, and they're both hand wired. They're both totally rebuilt and restored.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, yeah, won't be getting rid of them in a hurry, I don't think.
Yeah, very nice. So, in your day-to-day work at Bogan, do you do solid state work as well? I think I saw a PV.
No, I stay away from solid state.
Oh, okay, cool. That was good to know.
I have enough work with tube amps, so tube amps are my expertise, area of expertise. So I understand how tube amps work. Solid state, I understand about 40% of what I'd like to know.
Got it.
And I don't like the idea of charging people so I can learn.
Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome.
And there's other people around who are a lot better at fixing solid state than me. So people like Glenn Cowan, just down the road in Stokes Valley, he's a solid state guru. So nice. I tend to push people his way.
Nice, that's fantastic. So with the Jansens, there's a lot of I've read a lot of opinions about the sound of a Jansen as it was designed versus rebuilding and tweaking or modding into a Fender circuit or something similar to the Fender circuits. Do you tend to see some of both of those in your shop, or do you mostly just do like restorations?
I mostly do restorations. There's a couple of tweaks you can do to the Jensens which are really helpful. They've got on the back, they have a thing called the master gain control, and that's primarily, it's used because of the difference in topology between the Fender amp and the Jensen amp. You know, the Jensen Bassman is a very similar amp to the old Fender Blackface Bassman.
Mhm.
The biggest difference between the two is that there's an extra preamp tube in there, and the preamp tube goes between the phase inverter and the power tubes, and it's used as a extra driver for the power tubes. So what that means is it has a master gain control where you can vary the amount of preamplification that tube has after the phase inverter. So you've got preamplification after the phase inverter, and so you can take it from Blackface Bassman cleans all the way through to a plexi sound just by rotating that little dial at the back. Now, how they come out in a Jensen is they come out as a slotted screwdriver control on it. And the idea was you were supposed to set it so that you had a certain amount of millivolts. I can't remember how many millivolts in the signal it was. And that was considered to be the ideal amount of amplification for an amplifier. And it was somewhere around about 45% of the way around the dial. But of course, if you change, it's really easy to change that pot out to a 500K linear pot.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can put a knob on it. And so at the rotation of a dial, you can go from nice and clean to snarly.
Nice.
And lots of guitarists like that control. You know, it's not a control for the Jensen purists, but it's definitely a control for the guitarist.
Yeah.
You know, and they originally came out for basses, but like the Fender Bassman, they work really well on guitar as well.
Nice. Very nice.
Other mods you can do on a Jensen, the bias resistors on the preamps are 2.2Ks, and you can change them out for 1.5K or even go to a 820 ohm resistor like on a Marshall, and that'll give you a lot more preamplification.
Nice.
Gain.
Yeah.
So there's not, the mods aren't crazy, but you know, they kind of allow you to get more of that Marshall sound into a Jensen than what they originally had.
Yeah, and the nice thing about what you just described there was there's no cutting holes in chassis and things along those lines for any of that work. It's something that could be done pretty straightforward without
it's on the hand wired ones, it's really, really easy to do.
Yeah.
Changing out the resistors, you know, they are, I don't know if you've seen one of the older Blackface Jensens, but they're all, it's not quite point to point, but it is tag boards and point to point.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of soldering a resistor that goes from the tag board to the valve socket. Yep. And putting in a new resistor for that. And of course the master gain control mod is just unsoldering 2 wires with 4 leads and putting them on another pot. That's anyone can do it.
Yeah.
It's just, you just got to be mindful of the fact that, you know, valve amps have high voltages inside them in the power filter capacitors, and either discharge those capacitors or be really, really careful about what you're doing, because high voltage hurts.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. I have an electronics background from long ago, and there's been several times where I've performed what we used to call the 60 hertz shuffle. So back in the States. So yep. And yeah, I've been a few times when I was in the UK as well. So yeah, it's not the party that I like. Let's say.
No,
so,
I'm not sure what would be worse to be electrocuted by 120 volt at you know, significantly more amps than 230 volts is.
Yep. Yeah. I think the way we also learned it too is that it's a little bit better with the 230 volts coming out of the wall than what we had in the States, because there's just enough power coming out of the wall that you can't let go with the 120 volts, as opposed to
Right.
getting knocked back with the
Yeah. The 230 volts will make you jump. The
Yes.
120 will make you grab.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
neither
That's
which
not
are
so
good
good.
times, but yeah. What kind of amp do you see mostly coming in the door for work?
Ooh. It comes in waves, you know. I'll get 2 or 3 Marshalls in a row with similar problems, and then I'll post something about a rebuild on a Jensen, and I'll get 4 or 5 Jensens come in as a result. So it I'm not quite sure if it's because of what I'm posting, or if it's because it's just the way things go. This isn't my main area of business. My Bogan boutique is actually a sideline thing for me. So my main area of business is I'm a public servant working for Callaghan Innovation, and I work in research and development. So this is Bogan boutique is what I do in my spare time.
Nice.
When I'm not playing in one of 3 bands.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've got some questions for you about playing out as well. Is there a specific amp that you dread seeing come in the door?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I dread any and all Mesa Boogies.
Okay. That checks out with what I
And
understand.
Black Stars.
And Black Stars. Okay.
The Mesa Boogie is because it's just so hard to get at components. Invariably, the component that's causing the problem is about 2 or 3 layers deep, and you've got to dismantle a whole load of stuff to try and get at it. And on the Black Stars, it's because so much of the technology is all surface mount device now, and invariably, I just can't fix them. You know, it's a complete board replacement, and people turn around and they say, "What do you mean it's an $800 board replacement on my $1,000 amp?" You know, plus labor.
Yeah. I've got an old Filmo sound that I want to convert and
Oh wow,
do that
very
fun
cool.
thing. Yeah, it's I forget the exact model number. I think it's a 512. Just picked it. I bought it. I got it on Trade Me for $1. And it happens to be one of the ones that doesn't have a Widowmaker chassis. So
Handy.
I'm fairly excited about that. But it's sitting in the project pile. I'll get there eventually for it. But yeah, I dread opening it up because I know there's a lot of extraneous electronics in there that I am not going to care about. And sorting through which ones to pull and which ones to leave in will be a chore. So yeah.
Sounds like you might want to have a interview with Jonathan from the Beths.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure with his love of weird and wonderful technology and that you'd have a great conversation with him.
Nice. Yeah. Also on my list. So looking forward to reaching out to Jonathan. Yeah. That one's going to be a fun one. And I still having a little bit of a problem believing that I got it for $1, but it is what it is. The other thing
I've got a few amps for very little money, and they've ended up costing me not inconsiderable amounts of money and huge amounts of time to get going.
Yep, for sure. The other thing that I keep my eye on, and this is probably giving up the secret, as it were, but I picked up for I think it was $60 another Filmo sound, which I'm gonna basically rob for parts. But it also came with a Goodman speaker in a Bell & Howell cabinet, so that Audium 60 sounds pretty amazing for clean tones.
Nice.
Yeah, I did a YouTube video about that, and it worked out really well. So yeah, I love that. And it was, again, one of those cheap, nice, easy finds where all I had to do was change the connector, and I'm off to the races. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And
good.
I keep finding those things here, which is kind of unique and kind of fun to see sometimes. Is, people, I found this thing under my house, and does anybody want it? Sure, I'll happily take that. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I went through a stage of converting a whole load of old Columbus and the various Philips radios into 5-watt amps.
Oh, nice.
The transformers in them are almost perfect for a 5-watt amp, and they have like a 3 or 4-watt output transformer, which works great into scungy old speakers and gives you that really authentic Fender Champ that's been thrown in the back of a car and knocked around for 20 years sound.
Yeah, that's great. So do you do like boutique amp work on the side? I mean, like from scratch kind of thing, or
Yeah, I do, but to be honest, there's not that many people in this country that want that kind of thing. So originally I started out, I had these fantastic ideas of I was going to create a business that was going to work on converting old radios into very cool amplifiers. And I quickly discovered that, you probably, to make it pay, you were going to look at $1,500 to $2,000 for an amp. And not too many people in this country are happy to pay that for a 5-watt amp.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And then it became, well, actually, to explain how the whole thing started. So I've been doing this for about 3 years now. Originally, I am the son of 2 amateur radio operators. So I spent my formative years before I got into bands holding components for my father to solder. So that was how I learned about things, and I learned about resistors and capacitors and transformers and how all things work, from helping Dad to rebuild old valve ham radio gear. And so I've always been a tinkerer and a fiddler, and I liked to mod my own guitar amps and tweak things and invariably fix them, because there weren't too many other people who could fix them. And surely to goodness it wasn't that hard to find out. So I'd get books out of the library that explain how to do that sort of stuff. And then the internet came along, and of course that got a lot easier, and you could do things like watch old Uncle Doug videos on YouTube where I wish I had a teacher like Uncle Doug when I was a kid.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I learned a heck of a lot from doing that sort of stuff, and kept all my amps going. And I just got people coming to me and saying, "Simon, can you fix my amp?" And I'll be like, yeah, I'll do it as a favor. And then it sort of became to the point where, okay, well, I'm getting 1 or 2 mates coming to me for amp repairs a month. Why don't I just say, okay, well, I'll start fixing amps? And yeah, then they just all started coming in, and it hasn't stopped.
Yeah, that's great.
So I've blurred out my background, but behind me are a little bit like you. There's a number of shelving racks behind me, and they're all completely full of amplifiers. Most of them are my own. I've got over 30 valve amps, and
Wow.
a number of them are customers.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
that's how it all came about.
Yeah, that's great. That's a pretty great origin story. So for Bogan, that's fantastic. So speaking of playing out, what's your go-to rig when you do play out?
Ooh, well, it keeps changing. At the moment, my go-to rig, I've got 2 main guitars, a 72 Tele Deluxe and an 88 Les Paul Custom. And I'm playing into a Mesa Boogie F50. And this Mesa Boogie I got as a wreck. It was completely dead. It had burned out its power transformer, and it had burned a dirty great big hole through its motherboard, through the 15-volt relay supply section. So it took me bloody ages to get this thing going. Every time I'd get it going, something else would catch fire, and it got to the point where it was like, damn you, I will have you going. And I've managed to get everything going on the amp except for the reverb circuit. And since I don't use reverb very much, and I've got a pedal for it anyway, I've just gone, oh, well, stuff it. I'll keep using the amp. And so at the moment, it's an F50. When I'm not using the F50, I have I've got 3 Marshall stacks. I've got one's a JCM 800 4-holer. One is a JCM 2000 dual super lead, and the other one is a JCM 2000 triple super lead. So I play rock music. I'm in 3 bands. The first band is a hard rock band called Mr. Unit. The second band is a hardcore punk rock band called the Flash Harrys. And the third band is a relatively recent one, and it's a Stooges tribute band called Funhouse.
Nice.
So it's they all require rock amplification. But having said that, I've got a number of other amps I really love using. I've got a AC15 and an AC30, and I use them quite a bit. I've built a Marshall 1973 clone. Now, the 1973 was the 2-speaker version of the 18-watt Marshall.
Okay.
So I had a friend gave me a dead Marshall MG 100, which is a solid state 2-speaker combo, and they're perfectly good amplifiers, but they're not what I want. So I gutted the whole thing and rebuilt it as an 18-watter using the stereotone instructions and put in a few mods myself to there's a treble boost mod, because all these 60s amps just love being loaded up front with a treble booster. There's different cathode biasing mods on switches, and there is a solid state or tube rectifier switch at the back if I either want to go down the nice saggy sound, or I want to go to a more harder sound. So that's a 18-watt TMB model, which is the original 18-watters had 2 channels, both of them which had volume and treble, but one of the channels had a tremolo in it. But a lot of people went, tremolo's useless. Let's repurpose that preamp tube and put in a Plexi style, not Plexi, more JCM 800 master volume style front end. So it's now got gain, master, treble, middle, and bass on it. So that's a cool amp, ridiculously loud. It's got a couple of old blackback speakers.
Oh, nice.
From the 70s in it. Yep. And sounds great as an amp. Gosh, what else have I got here that I like using? Just looking around, I got a 1956 Fender Pro that I got as a absolute wreck, and I had to rebuild it. You'd find that on the Bogan Boutique Facebook page if you went looking. Complete restoration of that. From all that was there was a rusted out chassis with completely destroyed transformers and a shell of a cabinet. And so I restored it to, apart from the rust on the chassis, I restored it to pretty much as good as new. So used that in the last Mr. Unit album. And what else have I got? I got some Rockets. I've got some Holdens. I've got some Jansons. Yeah, so it's whatever the mood takes me is what I'll play. But mainly it's either the Messrs or the Marshalls, because it's easy and it fulfills the sound that the band wants.
Yeah, that makes sense. The blackbacks they are pretty amazing. I have a 2104 that I got, and it had 2 blackbacks from the 70, and I didn't know it at the time, but one of the cones was actually torn when I bought it. And as I got the speakers out when I got home, I found the piece of duct tape holding it together, and I've
duct tape, nice.
Yeah. So I very gingerly. Luckily, the duct tape was old enough that it just left a residue when I pulled it off on the speaker. So I was able to scrape most of that off with a razor blade, and then get it sealed up.
So you just fixed it with tissue paper and dope?
Something along those lines, yeah. So yeah, exactly. So it sounds great. So I can't complain. It actually worked out quite well. So
they sound good, those old Celestians. I've got one of my 4x12 cabinets. I've got a few 4x12s, but one is a old late 1960s, early 1970s Holden New Zealand, Christchurch, New Zealand cabinet, all made of solid pine.
Nice.
And in that, I have 4 Celestian greenbacks from 1969, the ones with the old pulsonic cones.
Nice.
They sound crap if you put a low wattage amp through it, but you put a 100-watt Marshall through them, and oh my god, they're just amazing.
That sounds pretty epic. So that's great. What's your all-time favorite venue that you've played here in the country, either past or present?
I'd probably say the power station. I love playing at the power station.
Okay.
It's not just because there's green rooms for everybody, and it's really well run. It's just the stage. It's just got so much room, and that sound system is just great. So I loved playing at the power station. I played up there. When did I last play there? About August or September last year. My band, the Flash Harrys, played with the Descendants.
Okay, nice.
And that was a great night.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine.
Power Station would be my favorite. After that, I love San Fran in Wellington. San Fran's a great venue. And where else? I'm hoping that I'll be able to say that Cabana is one of my favorite venues because I'm playing there in a few weeks' time as well.
Nice.
So that's in Napier.
Okay, very nice, very nice, awesome. Let's see. I got a couple more questions. So for aspiring DIY or junior amp techs, what would you say are the essential tools or reading materials to have?
Okay. So the essential tools: multimeter. You won't get anywhere without a multimeter. A decent set of wire cutters is going to be very handy. Get some long nose pliers, a decent set of insulating screwdrivers, and what else? You can pretty much do things with that. You don't need to go to an oscilloscope unless you're really trying to track some tricky problems. But two multimeters is always a good idea. I'll say one tool that I absolutely love is my Eurotubes bias probes. They have saved me so much time with what it is. It's a little box that has an LED screen on it, and it has a cable that goes to a socket that you plug into the socket, and then you plug the tube into that. And they will read out the plate voltage and the plate current. And it just makes biasing amps an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, those have been on my list. It's one of those things where it's like, can I justify ordering those? Should I?
You can justify ordering them. You can justify it. The very first time you will use it, you'll be like, why did I not do this 3 years ago? And they are fantastic guys. You have any problems with them, you send them back, and they'll just only too happy to help. Just absolutely lovely people, lovely service. Cannot recommend Eurotubes enough.
Fantastic.
What other tools would be handy? Or reading? Look, I would say as far as learning stuff and reading stuff, a guy called Rob Robinette, robrobinette.com. Go and have a look at his website. He has just the most amazing website, and he'll patiently explain so many things about how amplifiers work. And if you're the kind of person like me who likes to sit down of an evening with the laptop on your lap and watch YouTube while ignoring everybody else, go and watch all of Uncle Doug's videos.
Yeah.
Uncle Doug is the best guy on the internet for that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I in a Discord channel that I'm in, somebody was asking about like how to get started, and I absolutely pointed them to Uncle Doug's channel because it was just that is really the best way for somebody, especially I feel like he explains things in a way that even a complete and utter electronics novice can grasp, right? So so yeah, I really enjoy his stuff. And yeah, Rob Robinette's site is it's just that massive resource, right? So yeah, it is pretty great. It's pretty great. I love that site as well. Yeah, I think
another guy who is interesting for stuff. If what you want to do is you want to modify your Marshalls, And this guy's actually a New Zealander who
Jason?
has moved to Australia. Jason Tong from
Yep.
Headfirst Amplification.
Yeah.
Again, another really, really helpful and friendly guy who's I'm amazed at the amount of times I've been able to just have a chat with Jason, and he's talked me through something weird on an old plexi. He is the guru on
Yep.
old plexis. He's the Dave Friedman of Australasia.
Yeah, he is pretty amazing. And this Origin 50's got Headfirst mod written all over it soon. So yeah, absolutely going to be heading
I've been
down
so
that path.
tempted to buy an Origin 50 just so I can do those Headfirst mods.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The only problem is the choice, right? Like, do I do the 800 style mod, or do I turn it into more of a plexi, or do I go full metal on it? Like,
you do the 800 and the Jose mod.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what you do.
Yeah, that would be ideal, I think. So yeah.
And then you buy another one and do the plexi mod.
Right. And then I've got probably everything I'd ever need. So
No,
yeah.
you don't.
Yeah, no, no, and I do. If at some point I will absolutely interview Jason if I can get him, because I'm still a Kiwi, right? So, but that Alta amp that he makes, it's on my,
something else, isn't it?
On my wish list someday. So, but yeah, it's pretty amazing.
All that MIDI switching stuff, just goes over the top of my head. I'm a little bit more old school than Jason in that respect.
Yeah, makes sense. Another question for you. What was your first guitar and or amplifier?
My first guitar amplifier was a Gun 50.
Nice.
Yeah, and there's actually a neat story about this. I got my first guitar was my first electric guitar was a Carlos Les Paul copy. Now they were a particularly hideous copy of a Les Paul, but they must have been reasonably authentic because I broke the headstock twice. But playing that through a Gun 50, through a what looked like a 4x12 cabinet, but on closer reflection actually had a Super Gauss 18-inch speaker in it that had pretty much no frequencies over about 3,000 hertz in it. So I had the original muddy sound. And so I tried to get around that by getting an old loudspeaker and cannibalizing that and plugging that in as well. And goodness knows what my impedances were, but they sure as hell went matched across both the speakers. And eventually the poor old Gun 50 expired in a heap of green flame. And I always felt bad about that. And about 2 years ago, a guy got in touch with me and he said, "Hey, I've got this Gun 50. You can have it if you want, but it's been in a fire." And I thought, oh man, I've got to do this. This is karma coming back. And if I ignore this, I'm going to suffer for the rest of my life. So I got this Gun 50 and I completely restored it back to original condition. And so that's sitting at the practice room. It's got a Jensen Duo bin with a couple of G12 T75s in it. And
Nice.
it sounds absolutely mighty now. It's they've got this on the volume knob of the second channel. You pull out the volume knob and it engages this circuit, which is essentially a 1970s version of a Jose mod.
Nice.
And it's filthy, dirty, nasty, fuzzy muck. It's just fantastic, especially through a dirty old 18-inch Super Gauss speaker. I thought I was a guitar god when I was 13. So that was my first guitar amp, and I blew that up and I replaced it with a Roland Cube 60. I don't know if you remember those.
I do.
And great amp, and would you believe I killed that one as well? And so we're getting to about 1988 at this stage, and in 1988 I was 21 and I bit the bullet and I bought myself a 1988 Gibson Les Paul Custom and a JCM 800 stack. And I actually about a month and a half ago got my hands on a Roland Cube 100, so completed that part of the collection as well. So I'm paying back some karmic debt here.
Nice. Very nice.
So
Okay.
I've still got that Marshall amp, and I've still
Okay.
got that guitar. I played that guitar on Saturday night.
Nice. Very nice. I was gonna ask you, like, what was the? I'll still ask you, what is the guitar that got away, if you have one of those?
The guitar that got away, it was actually there's two. There's two, and there was a 1983 SQ Squire. I don't know if you remember them. There were two original Squire guitars that they came out with. Well, that was after the Fender Squire series. They made Squires in Japan. This was during the Dan Smith era of Fenders.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, to all intents and purposes, an American guitar made in Japan. They had all the American pickups and things. And there was the JV series and the SQ series. The JV series were the vintage Fender style ones, and the SQs were the 70s style ones with the 3-bolt neck and the large headstock and the bullet truss rod. Lovely guitar. Got stolen out of my car one day. And with the insurance money, I bought a Charvel Model 4. And the Charvel Model 4 was one of your pointy-headed shredder guitars. And that was a fantastic guitar. And that I took it to my uncle's work for band practice one night. My uncle owned a carpentry business out in Rongotai. And for some reason, I decided, I'm good enough that I can play jazz with my uncle, who's an accomplished jazz pianist. And well, it turned out that I couldn't. But he gave me a good razzing about that. And anyway, I left the guitar and the amplifier there, and I was going to turn up on Saturday, and he was going to give me a few more lessons. And that night, someone broke into the business and stole the guitar. Left the Marshall amp, probably too big to carry, but stole the guitar. So those are the two that got away: the SQ Squire and the Charvel Model 4. I actually found the Charvel Model 4 on Trade Me about a year and a half ago, the exact guitar.
Wow.
And I didn't have the money at the time, and someone else bought it. And I had a good conversation with the owner of the guitar, and they came across it quite legitimately. So it had been through a number of dodgy hands before finally ending up in Auckland. So originally stolen in Wellington, ended up in Auckland.
Yep.
So someone's got that guitar. I don't know. I never saw what happened to the Squire.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm sure there's a million other people with the same stories.
It's interesting so far. The interviews I've had, everybody's had a story. And so far, I've only had one person get really sad on me when I brought up the question, and I immediately felt regret for having asked it.
Right.
But
I'm okay. I've got so many guitars and amps that, I mean, yeah, if I lost the Les Paul Custom, yeah, I'd be really sad about that, because, you know, I've had it so long. I've had it, God, what have we now? 36 years I've had that guitar.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anything happened to that, I'd be absolutely gutted.
Yeah.
And, you know, the insurance money you get for it wouldn't replace it.
No.
I don't know what they're worth now, but, you know, last time I checked, they were 5-figure guitars.
Yeah, it's astronomical at this point. Oh, yeah. Do you have an amp that got away?
No, because I've gone and gotten back the gun and the Roland. So, you know, they got away, but I got replacements.
I was gonna say, I think you've already answered that question actually, but
yeah, so
sure.
They got away, but I got them back again.
Yeah. This next one's a little bit controversial, or can be, I should say.
Sure.
And different opinions based on different people. But what are your thoughts on modeling and plugins and the phenomenon around those things?
My thoughts on them is they're a useful tool. I have a model in myself. I have a fly rig that's a Mua GE 200 and DI box, and that works pretty damn well, to be honest. I think there's a place for them. If you if you want to be able to fly anywhere and not have to carry or hire gear, they're really, really good for that. I don't think I'd record with a modeler in the studio. Having said that, I've never tried to record with a modeler in the studio, so who knows? I know that the bands that I do record with, when it comes to bass gear, the last couple of times in the studio we record at, so just slight tangent, studio I record at, Iron Harp Studio, is owned by Matt Hudson, who's the bass player in Mr. Unit, and he has a TC Electronics bass amp, and we record into that TC Electronics and DI straight into the desk, and then reamp it with generally an Ampeg modeling piece of software that's, I don't know, it's linked to something on a card that's in the computer. So hell, and my bands are using modelers in the studio. I love the sound of my GE 200 into the back. Like quite often I use a modeler into the effects return on an amplifier. So I'm using the power tube part of the amp to amplify stuff. And so that was a trick that Mickey Gigas from the Cockney Rejects showed me.
Nice.
And, you know, everyone turned around to me afterwards and said, "Your amps never sounded so good, Simon." So, look, they've got their place. They are a tool. They're a very useful tool. Wouldn't want to fix one.
Yeah, no. Hard
So
pass.
I don't think there's controversy at all.
Good.
As guitarists, we're weird kind of creatures. We can be so superstitious sometimes about, you know, this is the sound that I've always had, and I can't get that sound somewhere else. But I've been able to replicate my sound with a modeler, and I haven't used a Kemper in anger, but I'm sure I could profile my amps with a Kemper and have it sounding identical. I note an old mate of mine, Phil Knight from Shehard, is now using a Kemper live, and I can't distinguish any difference in his sound live between what he had with the orange 8030s and then moving to the diesels and the Mesa Boogies. You know, he sounds the same. He's still playing that old Les Paul Standard and the SG through them, and still sounds like Phil.
Yep. Yeah, very nice. When I do some recording that I do, I have the official Celestion IRs that they sell. Caught them on a Black Friday sale or something like that last year, and picked them up, and it was I love those. So got several different 4x12 IRs they're great. So I love playing with them. So it's great.
It's great. Yeah, my biggest problem with IRs is I don't have enough space on my Mua to fit them all.
Yeah, I'm solely running through my MacBook, but I do, and I know you what you said about attenuators earlier, and I agree. But I do have a 2 notes over here that I run, like at that 2104. I'll run that through that, and then into the interface, and then through the Celestion IR, and it actually sounds really good. So I'm pretty happy about that, having that DI signal coming into the interface. It works pretty.
That's the thing.
Great.
The actual recording of it is different to how you feel it in the room.
Yes.
And I think this is the thing that a lot of guys struggle with, is they're saying the modeled amp doesn't sound the same as the original. It's because they're not getting that visceral physical experience of the 4x12 actually moving the air and moving the floor.
Right.
You know, when you've got a Marshall Super Lead and you're running it through a 4x12 and you're pushing 125 decibels there when you're doing that kind of thing, you can't get that with a modeler, that feel of that that's like hammering. If you're running a drop B guitar and you're chugging real hard on a B or a C, and you're getting that slightly nauseated feeling because it's just so damn heavy. You can't get that with a modeler.
Yeah.
But record the both and they sound the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing I think is missing from modelers. And if you go into an amp, into the back of an amp, into the effect return, you can get that feeling with a modeler.
Mhm.
And until they can model that making you feel a little sick because of the volume feeling,
Because
people are going to whine.
but you get the added benefit of like breaking up kidney stones with a 4x12. So
Well, this is true.
yeah. So what are some of your favorite Aotearoa artists that you listen to?
Ooh, right. So it's funny because a lot now, I'm probably going to upset someone here by forgetting to mention them, but so many of them are friends.
Mhm.
I really like what Curly's Jewels are doing. I think they've got a really professional sound and setup, and they've got a great work ethic.
Nice.
Oh gosh, who else am I really enjoying at the moment? I think I'm astounded at what Alien Weaponry have managed to do in this country and overseas. I caught Devilskin's version of Barracuda last week, and oh my goodness, they nailed that song. They absolutely nailed it.
Amazing.
But there are so many bands in this country, and I love them all. They're just wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Although I've mentioned 3 there, I could tell you 100.
Right. Yeah, the list is extensive, so for sure.
It is, and I love that musicians in this country are so open and friendly and ready to share their knowledge and what they're doing. It's something that you don't get a lot overseas. I think it's by the nature of the country being so small. It's like that, and I love how bands are putting on shows. You've got people like Electric Tapestry in Wellington. I don't know if you've heard of them. They are a kind of eclectic and kind of alternate rock band, and they've decided that if they can't get gigs, they'll make gigs, and so they're just doing show after show after show, and it's probably costing them money to do it, but they don't care because they're playing and they're having fun. So, they need a lot more support.
That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, I know what you're saying about what I've noticed is there seems to be a lot less gatekeeping here in the country than what I've seen in other places. So, which is really, really refreshing. I guess it's
I'll give a shout out also to I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but it might be something or someone to talk about in the future. You can contact me about this outside of this interview.
Sure.
Is the Lovelands Music Club in Wellington. Have you heard of Lovelands?
I have not, no.
Okay, Lovelands is an underground music venue.
Nice.
It's a club, and essentially it's invite only, and it's a secret location in the hills of Porirua, and every month they put on a show, and they'll have 4, sometimes 5 New Zealand bands playing, and the whole place is set up. Go and look at Lovelands on YouTube. Search for Lovelands, and so what they have is they not only have a venue you can play at, but it's all filled with video cameras and decent recording stuff as well. And so they're doing like the nearest analogy I would give you would be Austin City Limits.
Uh-huh.
So they're doing a show a little bit like that, and giving bands the opportunity to have live videos of their performances.
That's amazing.
So just what they are doing is absolutely incredible, and it's all volunteer run, and it's just amazing. Got a lot of time for those folks.
That's fantastic. That's what a great idea. Yeah, I'll definitely hit you up later about that.
Yeah.
So,
take a few hours to get through all those videos.
Yeah, I can imagine. So do you think there's a specific sound that has come out of New Zealand specifically that is kind of unique to the country, and or an example of that if you have one? Something I've been interested in hearing from people.
No, I don't think there's a specific sound coming out of New Zealand. There's Wellington's very much in the kind of alt rock vein, but no, there's nothing I would say is the New Zealand sound. We take influences from everywhere in the world, and we have some of the most creative and clever musicians here. And I think we make some of the best music in the world, but I don't think there's anything particularly unique about it.
Nice. I know we're like at the hour there. Is there a preferred method of contact for someone who might want to talk to you about an amplifier that they need help with?
Oh, just go to the Facebook page, the Bogan Boutique, and send me a message.
Okay.
That's the easiest way.
Fantastic.
It's got my phone number on there as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's the way. That's the way. Thank you so very much, Simon. This has been lovely to speak with you. I really appreciate your time. And
you're very welcome, Wade.
Look forward to continuing speaking with you going forward. So it's great meeting you and having this chat.
Sounds good. And we'll talk post this interview.
Yes, that sounds good. That sounds very good. Yep, I'll let you go, and I'll get back in touch with you and get some further information at a later date.
Cheers, mate, and thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, Simon. Hey, thanks for stopping by the Aotearoa Guitar Show. Hope you enjoyed my chat with Simon. Feel free to look him up if you need any amp help. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and I'll let you know as soon as the next one comes down the pipe. Lots more to come. Thanks again. Stay safe.